back to the Injury Prone Fantasy Football Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Edwin Porras, Dr. Physical Therapy, Medical Analyst, FantasyPoints.com. Gracias por tus oídos. I hope you don't hear my dog playing with her toy in the background, and if so, I apologize. Not much I can do about that right now. But what I can do is help you with your fantasy football teams. Let's talk about injuries, right? A lot of stuff went down over the last couple of slates here, and really I want to discuss today, as usual, transactions and go over the injuries that occurred in Week 9. I'm sorry this is going up a little bit later, so I'm going to try to make it a little bit more evergreen, and I'm going to talk about returns to Kyler Murray, returns to Justin Jefferson. What about Justin Fields? Is he going to play this week? If he does, what's that going to look like? I'm going to talk about some guys that are coming off of injury and potentially suiting up in Week 10, so stay tuned for that. But let's start right off the bat with two guys that sustained season-ending injuries. That is Daniel Jones and Cam Akers. Daniel Jones unfortunately suffered an ACL tear. It was pretty obvious on video, and then, it was confirmed with an MRI. Daniel Jones out until 2024. That is a brutal run out. An associated piece of news here, in case you missed it, is Darren Waller did go on IR. So we're not going to be able to see Darren Waller until at least Week 14, just given the way that the Giants' bye weeks work. Giants, I'm just offloading them. I don't even know what to do with Saquon at this point. I think he's obviously going to be the only show in town. But if they can't move the ball, I'm not sure exactly how much those touches are going to be worth. So you probably just have to hold on to Saquon Barkley. Another guy that you just are gutted for, Cam Akers, suffered another Achilles tear. It is to his opposite side this time. Don't really know what to say on that. I mean, that some guys just have brutal luck, and that's super unfortunate. Cam Akers' career is in jeopardy right now. I'm not sure how much juice he'll have left after that second Achilles tear. He was struggling as it is, so I really think the transaction here is going to be more Alex Madison, right? Alexander Madison, maybe some Ty Chandler. He's probably out there on your waiver wires. You might as well scoop him up and just throw a dart. Another guy that went into IR is Josh Palmer. Josh Palmer really would have implied in most scenarios more Quentin Johnston, but man, Quentin Johnston's not it. He's not shown to be a guy that's going to earn targets, and unfortunately, it just is what it is. Really, this just means if you can, before your trade deadline, grab more Keenan Allen or grab more Austin Eckler, that's probably going to be your best bet. Another guy that was injured here, Christian Watson. He allegedly did not get diagnosed with a concussion. Apparently, it has more to do with his chest and his back or something like that. So there's a lot going on with Christian Watson, and the bottom line is he's banged up. You just want to watch him this week to make sure that he doesn't report concussion symptoms, because even though he wasn't diagnosed with a concussion, guys can always turn around later that week and report symptoms. So that's something to watch. So continue to watch his practice status. Rolling right into Michael Pittman, it's sort of the same story. He came back in Week 9, but make sure that you watch him to make sure he doesn't report any additional symptoms of a concussion. Josh Downs, he tried to play through this knee injury. It's kind of a phantom knee injury. I can't really find what happened here. So unfortunately, we're just going to have to assume that because he re-aggravated it, he just tried to come back too soon. So it's probably not going to be, a week won't be enough for him to get back to 100% or close to 100%. So I would anticipate that we don't see Josh Downs until Week 12. And then, of course, KJ Osborne, that concussion looked really bad. Unfortunately, sometimes that does influence medical staffs or teams in general, organizations, about whether they bring them back or not. And a lot of times, in 2023 at least, we have not seen wide receivers come back within a week. So we'll see what happens with KJ Osborne. Luckily, he seemed to be okay. So now we'll get into these guys that I think are coming back. Right, Justin Fields. What are we doing with Justin Fields? So there are a lot of pretty good reports in Chicago that talk about where Justin Fields is in his progress, and he himself said very recently this week that his grip strength still isn't back to 100%. Now, this is a tricky situation because your grip strength, or his grip strength, doesn't have to come back to baseline, especially if he has no pain, if they are planning on putting him out there. The thing with Justin Fields is that even though he won't be 100%, or he isn't necessarily 100% that we know of right now, he can still play. They can scheme him up, right? They can scheme him up with slants, bubbles, more screen passes. Are they going to run him more often, right? This is a situation that if he has no pain and he feels comfortable, he can go out there and play. So don't discount Justin Fields playing in Week 10 just yet. at the very least, it does seem like he's getting pretty close. So that is something to monitor moving forward. Justin Jefferson. I know everybody was freaking out when Kirk Cousins went down. I know everybody was freaking out when Justin Jefferson went down. But just like we saw with Kyler Murray, guys don't just sit out. They don't just rest and do nothing simply because their team isn't good. Kyler Murray probably waited a little longer than he necessarily needed to, but he's back. And Kyler Murray will be back, and I'll get to him in a minute, but I want to talk about Justin Jefferson first. We've seen in Cooper Kupp, he can come back after a hamstring strain and dominate. Justin Jefferson's significantly younger than Cooper Kupp is, and we assume at this point that this has been more than enough time for Justin Jefferson to really bounce back, get ready, and return. So he's eligible in Week 10. Do we know for a fact that he's going to come back? No, we don't know for a fact. But we just have to continue to monitor the practice reports, monitor Adam Schefter's Twitter feed. You could be with Justin Jefferson, and this is really your last call. This is the train's leaving the station. If you want to put out an offer for Justin Jefferson for a wide receiver 2 or the owner of Justin Jefferson, the roster manager is really having a hard time, and they just really need a win this week, and they're still not certain. Before the news comes out, I would send an offer down for Justin Jefferson. We play for first round here. That's what we want to do. We want to win. Is he a risky bet? Yes. But do I think he's going to sit the rest of 2023? I don't think that's going to be the case. Another guy that everybody thought was going to sit for all of 2023, Kyler Murray. That's not the case, right? I think we're going to see Kyler Murray. Well, I know we're going to see Kyler Murray. It's been reported and confirmed that he is going to be out there. So what can we expect from Kyler Murray after this ACL tear? I think the first thing to note is, I mentioned it a little bit a minute ago, is he's probably pretty close to 100%. And I say that because he took 10 plus months to come back from what we assume, based on reports, is an ACL tear and a relatively minor meniscus issue. For context, Joe Burrow's knee exploded. He came back in like 9 months. Carson Wentz, he had LCL involvement. He came back in 9 months. This was a while ago, but RG3, he came back after LCL involvement in 8 months. So what Kyler could have done versus what Kyler did do probably was influenced by the current situation that he's sitting in. But he's back. He took more than 10 months to do so. He's off the injury report, and I think that's super important to note. So this is really your last opportunity to get Kyler Murray at a relative value. What we see in quarterbacks after an ACL tear is a dip in rushing production that's about 10 to 15%. But do not let that stop you from acquiring Kyler Murray. A lot of times, obviously, that's the average. Like, that's literally by definition, that is the average. The mean and the median. The mean dip in production is about, rushing production is about 10 to 15%. But those are guys who came back a lot quicker than Kyler Murray did. So don't let that stop you, right? Even if we take that dip and we take out Kyler Murray's career high in rushing in 2020, he is still top 6 in 2023. He would still be top 6 based on his average numbers plus the production dip in rushing. So again, I'm going to say that again. If we were to take out Kyler Murray's best rushing season in 2020 and find his average, he is still a top 6 quarterback in rushing in 2023, despite the assumed 15% dip that he might see in rushing. But that might not even happen because, like I said, I think that he's back to normal. Maybe it'll take a little bit to get his sea legs under him, but I think he's going to be pretty close to 100%, or if not 100%, as close as he's going to get in 2023. So remember, we don't need good NFL quarterbacks to be good fantasy football quarterbacks. Go get Kyler Murray. Go do it now. So thanks again. Make sure you follow me on Twitter at FBInjuryDoc. Make sure you're following the Patreon, patreon.com/injuryprone, where we're talking about all of these injuries and more. If you want to hear more about Deebo Samuel, Devon Achane, if you want to hear more about what I think of Khalil Herbert, like, is Aaron Rodgers actually going to come back? What's going on with guys like Drake London? All of that is in the Patreon, patreon.com/injuryprone. Make sure you follow me on Twitter at FBInjuryDoc. Good luck in Week 10.